What up, what up, what up? Welcome to Believe in Rams, presented by FanDuel. Erin Coscarelli back with you, joined by Ryan Anderson of the LAFB Network. And guys, we are here to talk all things Rams, salary cap. How much money do they have? How much money can they spend? They've got some guys that are going to cost a little bit. One by the name of Puka Nacua. We'll talk about all of that and so much more. And if you check out, by the way, FanDuel Sportsbook, Fernando Mendoza, the obvious number one overall draft pick at minus 20,000. Get in on the action. People are saying, since the Rams have 2 first-round picks, maybe take a flyer out on Mr. Mendoza. That seems kind of unlikely. But let's bring in Ryan Anderson. Ryan, how are you feeling? There's a lot to talk about with the Rams right now. Coaching changes, salary cap drama. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, all of this news dropped. I was calling it the calm before the storm, but the Rams whipped up a little storm for us with their coaching staff announcement. But yeah, this is a great time of year to talk football because we've got the combine just started today. We've got free agency right around the corner. So it is moving forward and quickly. So what a fun time to talk about salary cap before it all really starts moving. I mean, the Chiefs just released Mike Dana and restructured Patrick Mahomes, setting up themselves. So we're in it. We're in the season.
Yeah. We are, you know what? It's really not an NFL offseason. There's still so much drama. And one of the things that, of course, you mentioned the Chiefs. The Rams are not always big spenders when it comes to free agency. Of course, we have free agency coming up. And then, of course, we have the draft. And it's interesting to just break all of this down as I get a phone call right now. It's just so interesting to chop up how the Rams do things so differently. They have between 41 to 45 million in effective cap space. And according to Over the Cap, that's 9th most in the league, and they're going to need every single cent. But it'll be interesting because it's like the theme we hit every single week about the Rams is how do you contend while also rebuilding? Stafford, 38 years young, and he's not playing forever. So is he going to take a team-friendly deal? Is he going to want to, command more since he's coming off an MVP winning season? But also, like we've said, the data on a 38-year-old quarterback, regardless of how elite you are, when is the drop off? And I'm assuming, Ryan, that's something that the Rams are thinking about.
Yeah, 100%. I think, they're the elite team at the on the fly rebuild, as they did after Aaron Donald, after the 2021 Super Bowl. They completely reformed their entire roster. So, what are they and they're in a really good spot. They're trying to build a Super Bowl contender, somebody that's going to get past the championship game. So that's what this whole exercise is really about. They're in a really good place, but they gotta move all of the little dials, they're in the recording studio to get everything just right.
I can just picture McVay right now, like doing the DJ set, really figuring out how is this party going down in LA, which, by the way, guys, Super Bowl is going to be here at SoFi Stadium. The last time the Super Bowl was here at SoFi Stadium, things were going very well for LA. Of course, they won the Super Bowl. So it's an exciting year. Stafford is coming back, but how much, what I think the thing I find most interesting about these conversations is, yes, of course, we can crunch the numbers all day long. I'm not great at math. I always say, what do you value most? And the Rams value culture. The interesting parts of putting together a roster is not just crunching numbers, it's personalities, it's the culture, it's the fit. So I'm excited to get into the challenges that the Rams have, but they're kind of in a good position right now.
Yeah, they're certainly not in a bad place where they were, with what they have already on the roster. I mean, they're 44, almost $45 million over the cap currently. So that's fantastic news. They're not having to scramble to get under the cap. They rarely ever have been. So often put themselves in this position. But there are just some things that they're going to have to do that are going to cost money. But there's also some things that they can do to save money. And I try to be very realistic with my projections. You get some of these sites out there that just come up with, you know, Devonte Adams is just going to take the most team friendly deal in the world just because he loves us so very much and
I
wants
say that.
everything good for us.
Of course.
But these are people that want to get paid, what they're due and get paid a living wage. I don't know where I was going with that, but anyway, yeah, let's just kind of hop into this. I mean, just kind of, okay, I'll just say it like this. There's a few things that are going to cost the team money, and I think that's where we should start. And we've already mentioned one a couple of times in our previous show, but they've got a draft class of 10 people. Right now, it's going to cost them around $14 million. A lot of that comes just because they have 2 first rounders. So if they use both first rounders, it's going to cost them right around $9 million right there. Plus, they also have comp picks that are coming up, so they're going to have more picks. So this is going to be an expensive class for the Rams. So $14 million plus, but they can answer a lot of the questions, the big questions that the team has, particularly. And I'm going to bring it up again. They're going to have to find Matthew Stafford's successor. They might draft that. That would save them a bunch of money. So that's kind of the number one place you have to jump off of. So, you take, 45, 14 away from 45, you're sitting there at, 11 or $31 million over the cap. So I think the next place we have to talk about is the Puka Nacua extension.
Yeah, gonna be a big one, guys. It's gonna be a big one. Well, listen, okay, like before we get into your thoughts on that, so the cap for the league is going to be beyond, 300 million. And you mentioned what the Rams have about 41 to 45 currently before they start playing around with things. Stafford, obviously, with the biggest cap hit. What is he, 48 and a half or 48.2? Highest on
Yeah.
the roster, obviously.
Yep, 48 million.
And he's not taking a pay cut. Absolutely not. Coming off an MVP, it doesn't matter how much he likes the sun, the beach, the weather. He's 38 now. He's going to want to feel valued. But you're absolutely right. And that's the stuff that I find the most interesting is how are they going to restructure, play around, move things? It's not just about betting on the growth, but it's also betting on the future dependability of said vets. Where are they going to go with said vets? Are we seeing free agency in the secondary? Are we going to draft guys? Are we doing both? And the thing that you mentioned that I find to be interesting is yes, because they have the first two, they have 2 first rounders. For people at home, how expensive is that when it comes to, so it's not it's a very attractive thing to have, depending on if they end up trading it away, trading back, or giving up something. Because I think, and I looked it up, in terms of free agent signings, the LA has spent the 10th fewest dollars in free agency spending since 2020, which I want to say is tied with Kansas City for 4th fewest. So even though obviously Devontae might cost some money and they're going to have to pay Puka, what's Puka's contract to you going to look like?
That's a great question. So the one everybody keeps pointing to is Jamar Chase, who's making $40 million per year. So he's on a deal. $161 million is the total contract. $40 million per year. Do the over $40 million per year. People are saying record setting. So that means obviously beating Jamar Chase. How much do they want to beat Jamar Chase? Does he want to be a nickel over that, or does he want to really reset it, getting closer to $45 million per year? Now, the big difference between the Rams and the Bagels, the Rams and the Bengals, is a smart franchise ran by smart people versus a Bengals organization that has just been terrible with contracts. And now the Rams believe in cap over cash, which means a lot of upfront guaranteed money with void years on the back end. You go look at Stafford's current contract; he's got like 8 seasons of void years or something like that. But just looking at the Jamar Chase contract, he's started off 2025 with a $19 million guaranteed salary and a cap number of $23 million. Now, that some of that has to do with the fact that the organization isn't cap over cash. They are spending towards their cap more than giving guarantees and more than doing signing bonuses and things like that don't hit against the cap. So I wouldn't foresee Puka Nacua's cap hit being that high. So I went, but I still think it's going to be pretty high. So I put him at a total cap hit of $16 million. And so that's about $11 million added to the current cap, or taken away from hitting against the cap, I guess is what I should say. What do you think?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's not just Puka as a young guy. The Rams are going to maybe try to keep together alongside. You got to think about Kobe and Byron, Avila, Jordan Whittington, but Whittington is not up for. I think he's got one more year, right? Or yeah, because this is his second year. And Kobe Durant. So, if you just look historically in the NFL, when it comes to the next man up, whether it's a wide receiver or a quarterback, you're going to pay more typically than the guy that just got the contract. Although with Kyron, his contract isn't quite the same as like a Saquon. So I think it really depends on how valuable you are to the organization. And Puka's very valuable to the organization. I think the biggest question is how risky giving someone who has shown moments of emotional maturity or lack thereof. And I always say with the asterisk of he is 24. If someone had a camera around me all the time at 24, I would not be very happy. I wouldn't be happy at 41, to be honest. But it is part of the responsibility of being in the NFL. And I wonder how those conversations go down in the front office when Les Snead is thinking about giving this guy big time franchise money, because he knows he is the future of the franchise. The guy that they're going to draft to take over for Stafford has to be a guy that's going to fit with Puka Nacua, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. And I've added to the list of probable costs a long-term number 2 receiver. Devontae Adams obviously isn't that. That's something that they could address within the draft class, perhaps, but they might also have to look to free agency to find another guy. So that'll be something interesting to watch. You bring up excellent points about other guys that are available for contract extensions from the 2022 class, which was a banger of a draft class. Steve Avila, Kobe Turner, and Byron Young, all up for possible contract extensions. And you also bring up Kyron Williams, and I wanted to touch on that a little bit. Kyron Williams was not and is not considered one of the top backs in the league. And you go back to Cooper Kupp, he at the time when he was due for his extension, 2020, he was not considered to be an elite. He was good, but not in the elite tier. I mean, 2021 was really when he took that huge jump. And so the Rams have never really been in this position of having a guy that is
Mm.
the number one guy out there.
Mhm.
So it will be interesting to see how they do handle that, because they were able to get away with not paying Cooper Kupp top of the market money, not paying Kyron Williams top of the market money.
Think about, let's take the Cooper Kupp experiment. Cooper signed that in 2020, right?
Mhm.
Became Super Bowl MVP in
One.
2021. Yeah.
Yep.
And then
And also did the Triple Crown that year too. Got the receptions, touchdowns, and receiving yards. So,
and I think 2021, not that you could say Cooper's had a big decline. Obviously, the guy just, has a
yes,
Lombardi trophy now. He's doing just fine.
yeah, he's doing.
But if you look at his durability and his availability, he did have a drop off in terms of his injuries. I think 2021 was the last season he was fully, he didn't have he wasn't out games.
Yeah.
So with that, even that respect, the Rams, have to weigh or consider the durability or the availability of these guys, and when does that drop off happen, right? I mean, how many games did Devontae miss? 3, because he was out that Lions game, out the Seahawks game. He was not available in the Bears game and the Panthers game.
Wow.
So I think he missed 3 games, right?
Maybe more.
Might have been 4.
Yeah.
It might have been 4.
Yeah, and at the age of 33, not going to get any better. But sorry, you're driving towards a point, I feel like.
That timing people and players within the realm of the value, like you said, they didn't end up having to give Cooper all of this money, who then, had this huge year in 2021. They had already paid him in 2020. So I think it's all timing. It's predicting. It's so hard to do. And I think the biggest question mark is when you have a guy like Puka, you got to pay him. But how does that impact the rest of the money that you give out?
Yeah, the length of the contract is going to be huge. I mean, they're going to, his camp is going to want a long, big contract. The Rams are going to want to shorten that up a little bit. Obviously, he's still young, still plenty of gas in the tank. He's always been kind of a bit of I've always worried about him as an injury risk. He hasn't missed a ton of games.
I know.
And then how his style of play and how he's used in the offense had a lot to do with that. And that might change this season as it changed last season. But I mean, I think, further extensions, talking about Avila, Turner, and Young, I think that, you think about Kyron Williams, he was extended in July or August. I can't remember exactly when that came down.
August, because
Yeah, and then Quentin Lake, also up for a contract extension, wasn't done until November or December, so months and months later. So these 3 guys, I think Kobe Turner being the highest priority among them, that movement might not happen in the preseason or in the offseason. So I didn't calculate those guys necessarily. I didn't put a number on them, but just because it's up in the air. But I feel like Puka is one, it's going to get done sooner than later.
So when would you expect Puka's? Just throwing it out there.
Oh, the timeline. I don't know. I mean, I think the spring. I think before, they probably want to get it done before the draft, just so they know
Mm,
what they're really working with. Maybe even before free agency, which is coming up very, very quickly.
mhm.
I mean, that's probably their ideal timeline. On his camp, they don't, they're in no rush to sign this. They know he's going to get paid a lot. They're going to kick the can down the road as long as possible. So I think those are two very different timelines. I mean, you bring up Kyron, and Kyron is a different beast than a lot of guys. He is a team guy. I mean,
Mm.
I don't think he took necessarily a pay cut, but I think he probably could have squeezed a few more mil out of him if he was a little bit more cutthroat about it. But Drew Rosenhaus is his is his agent, so there's that as well. But
Yeah.
yeah,
But this is the part that is the hardest. You have a 38-year-old quarterback who there's not a lot of data for 38-year-old quarterbacks, previously 37 when he earned MVP. When is the drop off? And is that the negotiation tactic that is discussed? And do they have those kinds of conversations? And in the same conversation, do they say, hey, we are going to expect for you to train, coach, mentor the guy that is going to take your place and take less money?
well, let's talk about Stafford a little bit. I had him on originally. I think I had him on as costing the Rams more, and then I was like, well, he might renegotiate his deal to be a much more team friendly, and I think that the Rams should push for that. But why on earth would the MVP take a pay
That's
cut?
right. That's exactly right.
And so I'm just as confused about that one as I was before I did this exercise. But so I could see it going either way. I could see him costing a bit more, and maybe within that they figure out how to lower his cap hit. But if he wants more generally, that means the cap hit goes up. They're not going to. I don't think what we'll see is any extension. I don't think he's going to get extra years tacked on. And because of that, that makes it much harder for Tony Pastors and all those nerds up there in the payroll office figuring out how to make it work. So yeah, I think maybe best case scenario, he takes a very team friendly pay cut to try to get this last ring, because let's be honest,
Mhm.
that's what he wants, and he's got more money than any other professional football player in the history of the world. So
I kind of have to agree with that. It's hard to not at this point. Although he's got 4 daughters, he's going to have to put through college, and that can be expensive schooling here in California. No, but seriously, um, you would think that's the right way of thinking. But also, you saw that Bears game. You
mhm,
you go to Soldier Field and you gotta, like, how is this back feeling? When these guys are taking hits the way that they're taking hits, you can't pay them enough money for not what they're going through now, but maybe what they're going to be dealing with in 5 to 10 years.
sure.
Um, but you're right. How much is that ring worth? And does Stafford taking a more, a friendlier approach to his contract means he has so much more say in the offense or the dynamics of the offense? And then obviously, if you want to go even deeper than that, look at their coaching stuff that we'll probably be talking about. Seems to indicate they're going to want Stafford to be very involved
Yeah.
with the Cliff Kingsbury type, you know, air raid throwing offense. So I don't know. It's like it's fun to speculate, but at the end of the day, you know, do they give out that information if Stafford takes a pay cut? Do we get to find that out? Sort of, obviously, right?
Yeah, we'll find that out for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that one again, I mean, I imagine that one's being hashed out as we're speaking, along with the Puka Nacua
because
contract.
he's already signed for 2 more years, Stafford.
Well, at least one more like actual year. I mean, he's
Right,
got a bunch of void years, but
right.
those are false. Um, So in terms of cap savings, I've got a Devonte Adams restructure. He's got a huge cap hit. So I think they could save over 11 million bucks. I think Alaric Jackson is probably due for a restructure as well. I see no reason that they would want to extend him, so they could add on a few years there. I see that as a $9 million savings, and then we already talked about Darius Williams $7.5 million savings against the cap. So with the numbers that I've hashed out so far, that leaves the Rams still $25.3 million over the
Mm.
cap. I caveat that by saying there's all these other things that still might happen, top of which Stafford restructure. That could save them money, that could cost them money. Steve Avila extension, Kobe Turner extension, Byron Young extension would all cost them money against the cap, obviously. I think that Cameron Curl is probably going to move on. Daniel Popper has him on a 4-year, $64 million contract. The Rams are not going to pay that. So how do you replace them? Is that in the draft, or did they find a veteran? I'm going to add on a veteran pass rusher. They need pass rush depth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
I mean, the rumors about Max Crosby.
There's that. Khalil Mack is a free agent. He's old, but good production. Joey Bosa, similar idea. If they
Yeah.
want to find kind of like a Von Miller type of deal, obviously that was a trade, so it was slightly different. But like, getting a little bit more depth, adding a veteran in there, I think that's something definitely to watch.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they pull the trigger in the first 2 rounds. Maybe day 3 they pick up a rookie pass rusher, but so I think they're probably going to be trying to identify, like this year's version of a Puna Ford kind of
Mm-hmm.
addition to add a veteran to that. So that'll end up costing them money. And then a long term, number 2 receiver. We just talked about the draft and Devontae. I rattled off a whole bunch there. I apologize, but any kind of thoughts that came up for you across that Devontae, Alaric Jackson, any of that stuff?
Well, I mean, look, we've talked about how important culture is to this team. So think about, although I don't think Tutu was a culture mismatch, he was a offensive scheme identity. They kind of discovered more who they were offensively down the line. And they're, again, you had to account that was $10 million that was healthy scratches throughout the season, right? So that was an expensive mistake. Not that he was a mistake, but an opportunity to learn more. That was pricey. And unfortunately, a lot of Rams fans question that decision. When are we going to see Tutu? Why is he not available? And I think a lot of people questioned even the Devontae situation, bringing in a
Hmm.
Devontae who's a little bit older than Cooper, um,
33.
and way more expensive than Cooper. Why would they not? And by the way, I personally think it did pay off.
Oh
Even
yeah.
though Cooper ended up winning the Super Bowl, that addition was valuable, certainly in the red zone. And that's why these kinds of shows, these kinds of conversations are so interesting because it's nuanced. What is the identity of this offense going to look like? How is it changing from last year to this season? What are the coaches, and now that LaFleur is in Arizona, I feel like that's an interesting storyline. Who's the quarterback going to be there? And who
Yeah.
is LaFleur potentially taking from maybe LA to go have him to go, join his roster. So it's fun to, predict and analyze, but at the end of the day, I will always go back to it feels like it's so much more about culture. They're more willing to kind of oversee some of the things that Puka, although not the same situation, they're going to invest their chips on a Puka,
Mhm.
and he's going to get paid a lot of money. And it's just how much and for how long. And you brought up a really good point. how many years will they end up agreeing to when it comes to keeping Puka on the Rams roster. This
Yeah,
we'll
it
see.
is. It's going to be a fascinating negotiation. I wish I could be a fly on the room to see, what, it's undeniable. I mean, he has been one of the best. I can't say it any other way. He's been the best receiver in the league since he's joined the league as a
Mhm.
fifth rounder. And just to touch on the free agency, flubs, you bring up, Tutu Atwell, Jonah Jackson, that was a mistake bringing him in. Bobby Wagner, I don't know if you can call that a mistake. Maybe a miscalculation is probably a way to say. Allen Robinson was another one that you know goes down in history. So you bring up the Rams not paying free agents very often, or not chasing after free agents very often. There's some precedent to say that their track record isn't that great anyway. I guess I could say. So
Mhm.
all that to be
And
said.
also
Oh, go ahead.
and also letting, how did you feel about letting Ernest Jones go?
I mean, it set them back at the position group. I don't think that
Mhm.
they've fully recovered from that. I don't think they have a stud at that spot. I don't think they have a top of the league guy. I mean, as much as I like Landman, as much as I like Omar Spates, both limited,
Mhm.
I think they should go after a guy, Justin Cernat, to add to their roster as a special teams guy and as a guy that can play linebacker. He's a good pass rusher. I lost a word there. I can't remember. I don't even know what it is. But we always get a little loopy after 30 minutes. So
Oh, yeah, that's right.
yeah.
Yep. So needless to say, I think just to put a button on this, the Rams are in very good positions to be safe, take risks, but they have good building blocks. They already have a solid foundation. And it'll just be really interesting to see how it pans out. I think a lot of people had questions as to why the Rams would spend their first pick, not first round, but first pick in the draft on a tight end. And especially because we didn't see Terrence Ferguson get much action, it seemed like it panned out, but you almost thought that was why they drafted Terrence Ferguson, so they didn't have to pay Tyler Higbee. This is just the beginning, because again, two offensive coordinators, unconventional, defiantly original. Stafford's coming off an MVP campaign. Um, it's anyone's guess, and either way, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, 100%. And thank you, Erin Coscarelli, for doing this exercise. I mean, this is a good one.